almost lost my resolve. Here's an update. I'll also provide some context since my wife's surfing history, yeah, I'm snooping, indicates she hasn't used Reddit in 6 months. To be honest, I don't care at this time. Right now, I'm white-knuckling it. Anyone that discovered the truth and remained silent until their cheating piece of garbage was served, you have my appreciation. This is difficult since I arrived home late on Sunday. It's a 1,400-mile journey. This was excellent. I didn't want to see or speak with her. I was exhausted. I sat in my chair and fell asleep. I haven't had a good night's sleep in 2 months. I dropped 15 pounds. I had the appearance and feel of, but that was the first 8 hours I'd had in a long time. My wife attempted to initiate some intimacy on Monday. I simply can't get it together for this chick. My Johnson is up bright and early before me every morning, so there isn't something bodily with me. It's simply that, for once, my intellect and heart are in complete harmony. This irritated her, and we got into a furious debate. Maybe there was something wrong with me, I told her. This happened to me at the age of 50. She began implying once again that I was cheating on her. She said that I'm not a decent spouse. I haven't seen her in more than 2 months, and I haven't told her I love her in more than 2 months. I'm obviously doing stuff behind her back. I'm talking about, she made an attempt to dupe me. Yeah. Behind her back, I was doing something. I was putting things together piece by piece. My D-Day was September 25th. I work in auto body repair. I specifically work on automobiles that have been classified as real accidents. On September 25, I slashed my leg open while working on a vehicle. That resulted in a trip to the emergency department. I had 5 stitches on the inside of my leg and 3 to 4 on the outside. It was a disaster. I was given some strong pain relievers and told I couldn't drive. So I dialed my wife's number. There was no response. I called back 5 minutes later. There was no response. No response when I called again. Babe, pick up, I need you, I texted. Please contact me. I called her again, but she didn't answer. There are more texts. Nothing. This took around an hour and a half, so I called an Uber to go home. We come into sight of my home as we pull into my street, and she is standing in our doorway, absolutely sucking face with the GM of where she works. I motioned for the vehicle to come to a halt. They weren't exchanging pecks, they were exchanging spit. She was meant to be at work. I got out my phone, snapped a few photos, and ordered the driver to keep going. I asked him to drive me back to work. For 4 hours, I sat in the break room. Place your head on the table. Numb, my heart is shattered. When the analgesics wore off, I returned home my car. I was in agony from my leg as well as from everything that was going through my mind. She wasn't home when I arrived. She returned home a few hours later. She behaved as though she cared. Perhaps she was, perhaps she wasn't. I'm not sure. I inquired about her day, and she made up stuff about work that day. I was aware of it. A week later, I discovered for the first time that she had not worked on a Friday in 3 years. I'd never used Reddit much. It was always there, but I wasn't really interested in it until then. I was hunting for information on dealing with cheaters when this sub up, along with YouTube videos. So I've been reading things here. I'm just trying to figure out what I'm supposed to be doing right now. I was reading about all the red flags and simply repeating, yeah, sure, yep, that describes her to a T. I was always on the phone. I'm always texting. I can't answer my phone or respond to SMS for some reason. She had no clue I was in the emergency room attempting to reach her and messaging her until last Monday. She hadn't glanced at our conversation log in 2 months. Not at all. She was ranting at me about becoming a better spouse, that I don't do enough for her, so I took out my phone. I snatched the conversation log from her hands and slammed it in her face. I showed her the unanswered text messages. I seldom shout, but I yelled at her because the one moment I needed her to be there for me, she was gone. She took out her phone and glanced at it. She then left the home for a few hours. When she returned, she apologized and then lied right in front of my face. Oh, she had a difficult day at work that day. She couldn't notice since she was so preoccupied. The fact is that she was too preoccupied with her employer at my home to answer her phone. Thus, she was unaware of the calls and messages. I've stooped on her phone, laptop, and iPad between that day and today. I discovered I could spy on her from one of her old phones. I put cameras around the home. For 2 months, I've been watching her cheat on me in real time. Let me tell you a story. I've always assumed that Apple goods are for morons. They really are. Cheaters should definitely switch to Android or something, since Apple syncs everything. I've discovered that she doesn't simply dislike my son. She despises him, probably because his presence at my place throughout the summer was suffocating her style. This romance has been going on for years, according to what I've discovered. It's not only her boss I've discovered. For almost 14 years, one of the guys she has been someone I have worked with and considered a friend. She collaborates with his wife. His wife has been assisting her in concealing her affair with her employer. They were the ones who introduced me to her. They were there when I proposed to her. They were there for the wedding. They allowed me to marry this lady despite knowing she was cheating on me. I am aware of 4 males. I'm aware of 2. 2, I'm not sure. They've gotten into my bed. I'm sitting on my sofa. I dine at my kitchen table. I'm in the shower. They've washed their balls with my goddamn soap. I went up to my deer hunting property to get away for the weekend. I had invited her. I constantly invite her to accompany me everywhere I go. She constantly says no. When I arrived home, I simply stood there watching this procession of guys pass through my house and my wife. Between the 2 of them, she couldn't even shower or clean herself. What a scumbag. Yes, there is a camera in the bathroom as well. The same thing happened when I traveled to Chicago for Thanksgiving. She spent the whole weekend with different guys at my house. I'm in my bed. I kept this to myself for 2 months, till I informed my ex-girlfriend what was going on. I'm wearing a peaceful mask, but I'm just inches away from Hulk smash mode. I was going to confront her about her infidelity, but all I did was eat the falsehoods she fed me. I apologized for the quarrel. I told her I was going to see a doctor about my erectile trouble, and then I read her messages to her supervisor in which she refers to me as a limp and expresses her eagerness for Friday. This is not the lady with whom I fell in love 7 years ago. I'd want to say she's pure evil, but I believe she suffers from significant mental health issues. She is unquestionably a sociopath. Whatever. This is not something I agreed to. It was quite difficult for me to ask her to marry me. Since my first divorce, I've had a hard time trusting that anything good a lady said to me meant what she said. I've drove away 2 wonderful ladies in my life because I was still in the mind of my former marriage. More so because of what I went through after the divorce than because she didn't genuinely love me. During my first divorce, I was raped. I walked away with $43 in my pocket, no house, no vehicle, no way to perform my work, no support from my family, and no choice but to couch surf for the next 3 years since all I earned went to alimony and debt repayment. 22 years old in my life before it ever began. My 24th birthday was spent on my friend's sofa, intoxicated, with a pistol in my mouth, weeping like a baby because I didn't have the stones to do it. There was no light at the end of the tunnel for me. So, ever since that day, I'd kept $43 in my wallet as a reminder of the lowest I've ever been. I'm not saying that's where I'm at today, but that's how I felt after that. Yeah, I'm smarter and more prepared this time, but you remember the first time. I managed to catch them in the act. It had to be done the old-fashioned manner, come home early from a trip, but it was all over now. The extent of her gaslighting was her stating it's not what it seems to be and then yelling at me to stop beating the crap out of my brother and his buddy. Do not do this. This cost me a lot of money throughout my divorce. But it was all over now. There was nothing that could be refuted. Everything I've gone through in treatment has vanished. This time, it's the long process of deception. I'm keeping everything in. All the time, I'm being lied to. She lies even when she doesn't have to. I get the impression that every time I blink, she is with another man. I'm no longer in love with her. To be clear, there will be no resolving this. I've completed my checkout. My wedding anniversary will go down in history as a day that will be forgotten, the day after Pearl Harbor. I'll make certain she remembers it. However, the seconds seem like hours. I'm exhausted, and I'm suffering from a persistent headache. Everything I've gone through in treatment has vanished.